So here's a short walkthrough of the code base for that I provide to you for doing the final assignment of the Conway Game of Life series of assignments. Here's the code base. You have an index.html file and a live.js file. We open it up. We get what looks like the completed game, but not very much of it actually works. If you click on blinkers and gliders, you get the glider here, but you don't get the two blinkers down here. There's one here and one here. If you look at the video where I show you what you have to actually have functioning. So you need to add those. And then the apocalypse button does work, which kills all the cells like that. So blinkers and gliders work, but you still need to code the evolve button and the evolve auto button. Let's look now at the code base. So again, here's the index.html. I got all the CSS all written for you already. The HTML is all done for you. I've coded for you the table that you'll use. So you don't have to code any HTML. All you need to do is work in the live.js file, which is referenced right here in the HTML. In the live.js file, you have an add clicks function that let's see. I think that gets called when the HTML page loads. Let's see. It does right here. It gets called by the onload event on the page. And what that does is it adds all the, the table is clickable in this final assignment. You can toggle cells from white to aqua and back, whether they're dead or alive. You need to add those click events dynamically to the HTML. You can't, you couldn't go through all of these individually and add on click events. You're supposed to use the dynamic approach, which I described to you in the actual learning module. So you have to add those. This function is already written for you. This basically toggles the cells on raw, aqua or not aqua, but you call this function from the add click. And again, you'll need to examine the learning module to understand how to reference this function from inside this add clicks function. You'll need to be using a combination of add event listeners that then call, and in the add event listener, you describe the event, which is a click event, and then you describe the particular function that's going to be executed by that click event. So then next, this evolve auto function is already provided for you. You don't need to code it. It's triggered when one clicks the evolve auto button. And as you can see here, it's just, it in turn calls the evolve function and uses a set interval function to call it every half a second, thereby sort of automatically evolving the grid over and over again. So you don't have to click this button manually. You can just click this once and the cells will, the grid will regenerate of its own accord. Then the evolve function here, this should all be familiar to you based on already having done this assignment, or the Conway's Game of Life assignment using a, a 2D array. So it's and you have a function there that's like it, so you're going to use the same algorithmic approach, but now here, instead of using referencing a two-dimensional array, you're referencing a table, so your syntax is going to change a little bit. But conceptually and sort of algorithmically, the approach is the same. And likewise with count surrounding live cells, you've already coded something very similar again in the previous Conway's game of life assignment with a two-dimensional array or an array of arrays. So you again need to make it work with a table as opposed to with with a two-dimensional array. And then finally, this blinkers and crawlers function, well, penultimately rather, gets called when this is clicked, when blinkers and gliders is clicked. I call them sometimes gliders, I call them crawlers here. Probably should rename that, but it doesn't matter. Call it a glider or crawler, whatever. And as you can see, I've already painted one of the crawler or the glider on the screen, which is this. You have to also paint the blinker that's on the bottom left and the bottom right. And to know what those look like, refer again to the video where I show you what this completed assignment looks like. And then finally, there's this apocalypse function, which gets called by the apocalypse button, and all it does is kill all the cells. And sometimes students get hung up on that. All I'm really doing here is reloading the page, which just effectively kills all the cells. So that's it. And you can also find all these places that you need to add code to by just doing a search on the to-dos in this template. Okay, great.